Hello, welcome to Coach Grid. Excited to be here. Today we're going to be talking about how to coach from your future self. Another way of saying that is how to get over that pesky imposter syndrome thing that every coach inevitably feels in some way, shape, or form. And as we've worked with a lot of different clients and had that come up for a lot of them, how you deal with that, how you overcome that so that you can more confidently and successfully go coach.
Yeah. What even is imposter syndrome? Like, people always say that. What are you feeling when you say that?
I think generally the idea is someone else is going to know that I'm not doing it perfectly. Someone's going to know that I'm not everything that I am coaching on. And because I'm not perfect, I can't, and I'm not qualified to go help somebody else with this. The reality being, never in the history of the world has someone been perfectly embodied in the thing that they want to go coach on or teach. And so understanding that already is pretty valuable. And it's the mental side of remembering that when you're getting ready to do it.
Yeah.
The first thing, though, is kind of reframing that idea of future self to more of an embodied identity, meaning we have a lot of identities. And people say, oh, you need to be authentic. You need to be honest wherever you are and fully yourself wherever you are. And if you're not, that's bad. But I know from personal experience, when I go visit my grandma, I'm authentic, but we talk about certain things, we act certain ways, and I'm focused on communicating with her.
Yeah. You're not dropping the F-bomb.
Right, exactly. When I'm at work or when I'm with my children or when I'm at the gym, I'm still embodying an identity, but it's a different part of me.
Yeah.
And so as we talk to people about imposter syndrome, you start to identify your identity as a coach. Who is that? What is that version of myself? And the more you practice it, the more you role play it, the more you talk to other people with it, the easier it becomes to step into that identity when it's time to be a coach. The second part to that is still finding evidence in the present. And I know this is something that you've talked a lot about with clients. If we have somebody that's a mindset coach and they're saying, I'm not a good mindset coach. And you ask them the question, what is it? Can you know without a shadow of a doubt?
Yeah, that's Alyssa Nobriga. One of my mentors always has us ask that question. Like, as you're doing inquiry, a lot of the time we go to the negative, and it's, do you know without a shadow of a doubt that negative thing that is coming up for you is true? And that identity that you're taking on, do you know without a shadow of a doubt you're that person? And it's really starting to look for the evidence that you are who you want to be, because I've never had somebody say, yeah, I know I'm bad at this without,
I think inherently, because you got into that space, because you recognized that some part of you was qualified and was excited about coaching in that thing. And so I love that question. Can you know without a shadow of a doubt that you are not that thing? Yeah. And it forces your mind to start looking at that and finding the evidences that you are. Along those same lines, outside of the present moment, one of the books we talk a lot about is The Gap and the Gain by Benjamin Hardy. And I love in there that same idea of not even in the present moment, but being able to measure backwards and being able to say, look at how far I've come in this space. Look at how much more embodied I really am as a coach in this thing. Oftentimes when we have this kind of mystical, imaginary horizon in front of us of when I get to this point, then I'll be qualified.
Yeah.
It's so ambiguous. It's so vague, and you can't ever do anything with it. But when you measure backwards, you can really start to see, look how far I've come. Look at how much better I am at these things. Remember how I used to be versus how I am now. So that ability to measure backwards, I mean, that book is so valuable for 100 reasons.
Yeah.
But that in and of itself is awesome.
Yeah. I think along those same lines, you take the flip of that. And a lot of times people are like, when I become this thing, when they don't realize that they can become that thing in this moment, if they just believe that they are. And I think this topic of how do you coach from that place is allowing yourself to really feel into it in the moment, before you've become it to your rational, logical mind that's looking around it, who you are.
Yeah, I love that. In that same vein, I guess, if you are going to measure and if you are going to set this idea of I need to become somebody or I need to become a version of myself to be qualified or to be ready, there is a level of that. And that does make sense. But generally, again, when we're talking to clients, the phrasing that they use is, well, when I feel more confident, then I'll go out and talk to more clients. Or when I'm better at this thing, then I'll put myself out there on social media.
Okay, so how many certifications do you need?
Right.
Is it 7?
And that's the
more
thing.
in the 11 to 15 range.
Right. Because it's so vague and because it's so ambiguous, it is a never ending cycle. And the 90% of my analogies have to do with the gym. In the gym, if you were saying, I want to get into a weightlifting tournament, and when I'm stronger, I'll get into the tournament. That's not going to work. If you can squat 200 pounds right now, and you say, when I'm able to squat 300 pounds, then I'm ready. That's at least a measurable base that you can go against when you want to do something like that. So as you're a coach, that's a lot of things that we'll do with them is we'll set measurable benchmarks for them to say, once I'm finished with this certification, once I have this many hours of practicing, once I have this many reels set up or this back end thing designed, then I'm going. And it becomes a very measurable space that you can take action from.
Yeah. So coming back to the topic of this video, how would you coach somebody in this context of the tendency to push things off? How does that apply to fully embodied coaching from that future version of themselves that they're trying to become?
Yeah, it's a great question. Practicing helps. And again, a lot of times these coaches will stay theoretical in it. It's this idea of, I got the certification, and so one day in this fake imaginary land, I'm going to be ready. But if we ask them, okay, what are you doing then to prepare for that? There's not really anything that they can say. It's just, I just know that it's not right now. Mm-hmm. And so when we're working with somebody and they're putting their business together, we'll say, okay, let's go find 2 or 3 beta clients where you might not charge them any money, but you're going to get in the reps. Let's have some role play with you and one of your friends where you can go and work on embodying that confidence, embodying that version of yourself, that identity to help you do it. And just like anything else in life, you have to practice. And most people just aren't. And so that's the way I would coach somebody into doing it is get into action, not with your paid clients. There's a lot of other ways to do that.
Yeah.
Lastly, there is a level of feeling in this. And it's interesting in the coaching space, imposter syndrome is almost solely tied to experience. And if I don't have X amount of people that I've worked with, if I don't have X amount of years in an industry, then I'm not ready and I'm not qualified. But as you look at, let's say, professional sports, for example, you can get a 19-year-old kid that will come into the NBA and play against guys that have experience. They have 10, 11 years playing that sport. But this 19-year-old can compete with them at that level and sometimes outperform them because of things they have that isn't experience. It's their skill sets, it's their talents. And I think that's what a lot of people forget is what drove them to it in the first place was you knew when you started the process that you didn't have experience, but you knew that you had a feeling, you knew that you had a passion for it, and you or other people around you identified that you have a talent for it. And so you started going down that path. Yeah. So being able to remember, I might be the rookie of the year when it comes to this type of coaching. And that's okay. Somebody has to be. Somebody has to be the one that came in brand new and did it really well.
Yeah. So what's the difference between the 19-year-old who can go and play and hold his own and the 19-year-old who has maybe the same skills, but will never be on that, I want to say stage, but sports field or court What makes that difference? What bridges that gap?
I think it really goes back to that practice. If you have places, if you have experiences where you've done that in the past, where you've stretched yourself, you look at like LeBron James, for example, whether you like him or not, when he was 14, 13, he was playing basketball with adults who were very good at basketball. Mm-hmm. So when he got there, it wasn't this idea of, oh, they're older than me, they're more experienced, therefore they're better. So when you get into those spaces and you start surrounding yourself with those people, you've already done it. And so it might not be the experience that you need professionally, but it's still the experience that helps you step into that embodied confidence.
Yeah, I like that. So it's not so much experience like shooting hoops, like that will help you in the game. But the bigger experience is the experience of pushing past your comfort zone and experience really putting yourself in situations where you're forced to grow. It's the 10X principle.
Right. There's examples, and I can't remember exactly who it is, which NBA player, but there's an NBA player that didn't start playing until he was 15 or 16 and then entered the league at a very young age. And honestly, one of the things that helped him is because he didn't have the experience, it forced him to innovate. And that's generally where innovation comes from. Innovation doesn't come from this guy that's been doing it for 30 years has been teaching me how, and I do his system. It's, I see this and I see what good is coming from it, but also because I don't have the experience, I'm not acclimated to what it should look like as far as industry experts go. And I'm able to innovate. I'm able to do something different. And that's part of that skill set and part of that talent that helps you create a name for yourself, really.
Yeah.
And so wrapping up, imposter syndrome, very real. I think every single person feels that, especially in the world that we're in right now. People put themselves out there on social media and it can happen. People can come in and be very critical of you and critical of what you're doing. There's no greater critic that any of us have than ourselves. And I think these are the best ways to start putting into actionable practice something that will shift that for you. Thank you for being with us today. If you found that useful, if you found that helpful, you can find us at Coach Grid on Instagram, or you can go to coachgrid.com and talk to us there.